Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
Listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Honky sucks dick.
Joe Giammatteo.
Hey, Burger King man. Say hello to the blue guy.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on February 24th, 1997. This Raw was recorded at the Manhattan Center in New York City, New York, and features Vince McMahon, Jerry the King Lawler, and at times Paul Heyman on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. We had the intro right off the bat, something we haven't been getting lately. And there's Vince McMahon back on commentary. Oh boy, my first note of the episode is Vince is back.
But we do get an explanation why a little later.
We do.
And it's acceptable.
It's acceptable. This is going to take us into our first match of the night. The new Blackjacks, Barry Windham and Justin Bradshaw, or just Bradshaw, I wasn't quite sure on that, defeat the Godwinns, Henry and Phineas, by pinfall in 5 minutes and 49 seconds. These new cowboys didn't even bother to take off all of the ring gear they must have bought from the Smoking Guns estate sale. They jump-started it right off. And there were plenty of Blue World Order shirts in the audience, as well as ECW shirts. Keep in mind, this is the challenge being answered here tonight that Jerry Lawler issued last week. And the crowd was appropriately hostile. They were yelling shit at everyone here. We also got the news that Marlena would be meeting Sonny later in an arm wrestling match. Okay. And Vince was having a bit of a hard time saying Blackjack Bradshaw and Blackjack Windham. They're just really married to these awkward names still at this very early point in their short gimmick career. To me, the Blackjacks, with their plain black trunks and black handlebar mustaches, they both kind of looked like a poor man's Dan Severn to me. The venue here was kind of off-putting. I mean, I know that this was the original Raw arena, if you want to call it that, but the way that they set it up, it almost felt like they were going for that smaller, more intimate look, maybe to emulate the ECW arena. But something about it just felt off to me, and this wouldn't be the only thing. There were going to be a lot of things throughout this episode that felt off, and we'll get to them eventually. We got a view of Ken Shamrock sitting there at ringside, the world's most dangerous man in the audience. I was always a big fan of Ken Shamrock. Pretty happy to see him here. The fans were sitting on their hands for this match, unless, of course, they were using their hands to cup around their mouth to yell at someone that wasn't in the ring. I think they were yelling at commentary, because they sure as hell weren't yelling at the ring or even really looking at the ring. When we got to the finish, Phineas's foot was on the bottom rope. The referee didn't see it, gave the win to the Blackjacks, the referee here being Mike Chioda. The Godwinns then slopped Mike Chioda. He flips and flops around on it, and we move on. You will notice that I didn't really talk about the ring action too much. Not a lot of focus on it. Not that it was all that terrific. I mean, it was standard, I guess, but bottom line here, Joe, the Blackjacks just debuted, and I already don't give a shit about them at all. This match wasn't interesting in the least bit. What did you think of it?
Yeah, this didn't really have anything great to talk about here. It's definitely a different feel to this Raw episode already, just because they're in that small venue back to where it all started. The crowd is hostile, like you said. The Blackjacks is just another lame cowboy gimmick that we've seen before. However, I do think it's a better fit for Barry Windham than the stalker gimmick that he was using. But kind of a weird way to debut a team like this. I mean, I'm sure they were maybe on Superstars before, but as a Raw debut, this is pretty weak. Someone just getting randomly slopped. I think it's going to be a theme throughout this 2-hour episode of Raw that they're just playing it up for the crowd in this episode. So yeah, they're going to give them all kinds of crazy shit like that.
Yeah, this was definitely all for the crowd. And, to their credit, the crowd did eat it up. They were hostile. They did exactly what was wanted out of them. It made it seem like the WWF was coming into unfamiliar territory, even though this was the place where it all started. But the match, it didn't hit it out of the park, that's for sure. When they introduced the new Blackjacks, we said it back when they were teasing them, how many cowboys / rednecks / Texans can we have in the WWF? And it's about 20 too many at this point. But the action wasn't terrible. The Godwinns are always solid, and Barry Windham and Bradshaw are both solid wrestlers as well. It was just nothing great here, and it was good to see Bradshaw with his shorter hair and having it dyed black, because he's definitely giving off more of those accolade look to himself. The slop at the end, I feel like this is the first slop that we've seen in like 4 months or something. It's been a while, and I think it's because the Godwinns gimmick has kind of run its course at this point, even if I do especially enjoy seeing Henry out there, but nothing too fantastic here.
Yeah, totally agreed. Question for either of you, if either of you want to take this. Do you think that it would have been more effective for this crowd, for the Godwinns, either one of them, to slop drop Mike Chioda as opposed to slopping him? The hostile crowd, they might have went for a little bit of the more violent reaction.
Violent, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Quite possible.
Yeah, it all seemed pretty senseless and had no substance behind it, really.
Joe, like you said, there's a lot of spots in this episode where they're playing up to the crowd and trying to just go all out, and they stand out. They stand out as very cartoony, like, I don't know. It's almost like I can hear Vince McMahon's thought process. Oh, well, they like extreme things. Let's see how they like somebody getting slop poured on them. Spoiler, they don't really care all that much. It's mildly entertaining, but compared to what these ECW fans are used to seeing on a more regular basis. Speaking of things that ECW fans really like, when we came back from that last segment, we had the Eliminators, Perry Saturn and John Kronus. Hell of a fucking tag team. And they had brought some poor soul, a ring attendant, up into the ring with them. Then they nailed that poor soul with the total elimination finisher. That prompted a pop from the crowd, and Paul Heyman entered the ring. Heyman yelled that the challenge had been accepted and that ECW was in the house. That was really about it for that. We broke the commercial and came back to Paul in the ring once again. And I thought it was really cool that they were even using ECW ring graphics there at the bottom of the screen as Paul was announcing the next match. And that's where it moves along. But just briefly, Joe, what did you think about the way that ECW made its presence officially known here?
Well, I think that it was a little confusing because we only caught part of it, I guess, because they came back from commercial. And it's a common theme throughout this episode that Vince does not really know what the fuck is going on. And so I didn't really understand what was happening, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was a little bit confusing, but I thought once Paul Heyman came out here and they assaulted the ring attendant, I thought it did its job here. They got the crowd cheering for him, and Paul Heyman comes out and says he accepts. So, little bit confusing, but not bad.
Yeah. The word that kept on coming to my mind throughout this episode was just kind of discordant. They were trying to put each other over, but just couldn't figure out the right way to do it.
I will say anytime, especially in this era, anytime Paul Heyman steps into the ring, it's, as JR would say, business is about to pick up.
Yeah.
He's just great. He just has a great presence and knows how. He's got the ECW crowd in the palm of his hand.
That's going to take us into our next match. Stevie Richards with Supernova, the Blue Meanie, and 7-Eleven defeat Little Guido by pinfall in 3 minutes and 41 seconds. I loved seeing the Blue World Order mock the NWO. This is where we got that Paul Heyman was going to be joining commentary for these matches. Raven made a brief appearance here. Paul called him the David Koresh of wrestling. Great fucking line there. The action in the ring, somewhat lackluster. Stevie Richards, mostly an entertaining person. Little Guido, mostly an entertaining person. Nothing wrong with this, but this was definitely the best match to put at the bottom of the card, or I should say at the start of the card. We got a pitcher-in-pitcher with Goldust. He was not pleased with the action, and there were some technical difficulties, but despite those, we got him back. It was at this point that I was kind of getting, not distracted, but the rowdiness of the crowd wasn't planned for, I don't think. Like, they weren't doing these interviews in a back hallway where it's quiet. Because, Goldust, he likes to give a nice, somber, quiet delivery to put it full of gravitas and to milk the drama of his presentation. And that's usually in a calm, cool tone of voice. But I think he was standing, like, right behind the entryway or something by the arena, because you could barely hear what he was saying over the crowd. And that's not the first time or the last time that would happen with some of the talent here tonight. But just like I said, kind of distracting. It didn't seem like Goldust was able to get into his promo because he was fighting the volume of the crowd. And just as that was finishing up, so was this match. Stevie Richards hit the Stevie kick on Little Guido for the quick pin and 3 count. Ryan, based solely on this first ECW match, this is where it became pretty clear that there were drastically different styles at play here. And while the whole attempt, it's a valid idea. I'm glad that they're trying to put each other over. I'm glad that they're doing this. I'm glad that there is exposure going on for a little bit of the unusual wrestling that's out there. I was also, at this point, just a little concerned about how well they were going to pull this off. What did you think about this match?
This match, it was nothing great, but I didn't hate it. And that kind of is how this whole episode is going to be.
Yeah.
There are points that maybe aren't graceful. They don't lead into each other smoothly, but I don't necessarily hate it. And that's what this match was. I loved seeing the Blue World Order come out. That was great, seeing them mock the NWO. And let's be honest, ECW footage has never looked so clean and professional as it did here tonight. And Paul Heyman on commentary, I thought was great. He's setting up and putting over his wrestlers here, and I enjoyed him and Kings going back and forth a little bit. And it was also really great to see Raven come out, because here he is with a belt with ECW.
Johnny Polo.
Yeah, just a few years ago, he was just a manager here in WWF as Johnny Polo. So that was really great to see. And I didn't think the action between these two guys were terrible. And really, this is the type of wrestler the WWF is missing right now. These mid-weight, mid-carders that just kind of keep the show moving. The interview with Goldust, way too quiet. But again, Heyman on commentary did a good job of covering up for that. He said this rowdy ECW crowd is just too much for him. They're drowning him out. So Vince didn't know to do that, but Paul Heyman was right on top of it to cover up for that. So Big Stevie Cool comes away with the win with the Stevie kick. Yeah, I thought that this was a decent way to introduce ECW. It wasn't fantastic. It didn't knock it out of the park, but I thought it was definitely serviceable.
Yeah, I have to say that going into this episode, I was pretty excited to watch it, knowing that this was going to be that cross-promotion show. But I don't remember this show. I don't remember watching it when it happened. And I have to say, it is not what I expected. This is basically a full-blown ECW show, and I was expecting more of like an invasion angle type of thing. So that was just a little unexpected.
I think we're going to get more of that as we lead into WrestleMania, right? We're going to get more matches between WWF and ECW, but here it was like just an introduction of them.
This is like the taint tickler.
Yeah, the taint tickler. As long as they don't send it into numb territory, it'll be all right.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I think that everything on this show, I feel like everything is rushed. They tried to pack too much into a 2-hour television show, I think. That's how I look at it as a viewer. Just this whole entire show just seemed very rushed. And this match, is part of that. Like everything just seemed so rushed and thrown in there. Speaking of rushed, a holy fast count from this ECW ref. Man, that was the quickest 3 count I've ever seen in my life. Also, Sweet Chin music is way, way greater than the Stevie kick.
Let's move it along through the show here. Let's cut to Sunny. Sunny's usually something that's nice to talk about. She was looking a little rough here. Not that she was looking bad. It kind of looked like she maybe spent a little bit too much time out on Lake Havasoma, maybe. I don't know. Some bags under the eyes. Life's catching up to Sunny.
Later, I don't think there were too many people looking at her eyes.
Yeah, including the cameraman.
Yeah. Really zooming in on those ass cheeks.
Sunny had to yell over the crowd here, but she cut her promo, and it was well enough. Then we got the Honky Tonk Man's music. Talk about a ballsy move in front of this crowd, bringing out the Honky Tonk Man. My God, I was genuinely surprised that he was showing up at all, let alone to officiate what's apparently an impromptu arm wrestling contest. We went to a quick commercial break, came back to Honky in the ring, and a fan clearly yelling, "You suck!" The fans there also clearly loved Sunny, and she was announced for our next match. Marlena defeats Sunny via disqualification in an arm wrestling contest that I didn't bother to time. Sunny came out first, cut another promo in the ring, and then proceeded to do a literal striptease dance, trimming down to a skimpy outfit, by God. But then Marlena came out and she was wearing a gold unitard over black tights. I popped hard for Marlena's ring gear. I thought that was great. That was perfect. Fuck that whole striptease bikini thing. Marlena was taking it seriously and I loved it. We got a video of that huge woman attacking Marlena. Sunny offers Marlena the option of forfeiting, seeing as how Marlena was literally coughing up blood and everything last week. Marlena then calls Sunny a prostitute. Not too far off. I loved Honky Tonk Man as the referee giving the rules. He did a great job there. Sunny kept false starting, then Marlena did. We got a view of Ken Shamrock looking bored as hell there at ringside. When they finally got started, it was kind of an even match here, and just as Marlena was about to win, Sunny threw some kind of powder into Marlena's face and knocked the table over. You could clearly hear a fan there yelling, "You fucking bitch!" repeatedly at Sunny.
And Honky sucks dick.
And then Sunny called in a healed up Savio Vega for some fucking reason. I'm not sure what the connection there is quite yet, maybe. But of course, Goldust came out to protect Marlena. And I guess that's setting up the next segment. But before we get to that, Joe, I hated every second of this colossal waste of time. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it's pretty much what it was, a colossal waste of time. Sunny comes out and looks great, but she basically just cut a Rick Rude promo. It was like a exact copy of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, that wasn't anything great. The stuff that the crowd was yelling was probably the most entertaining part of this whole thing, really. And also, Vince, I love Vince's commentary when the girls are like doing sexy shit. Sunny's taking off her robe and Vince still does that like cartoonish, "Whoa, she is hot, bumping and grinding."
Yeah, this was just a giant time waste is what this really was. They were trying to fill time and they burnt up a good 10 minutes here with how many false starts they had, their promos, the honky tonk sexually saying, "Yeah, grip it real tight." I don't know if I hated it as much as you did because it was clearly just here for Sunny to come out and strip for the crowd and the crowd loved it. So, I mean, it worked. But by the end, the whole thing with Savio Vega and then Goldust, and then I'm like, oh, okay, these two have a match. I don't know. It was confusing at the end, but just a big time waste, and that's all it was.
Yeah. Well, you know, I shouldn't say that I hated it because we did get Marlena in a gold unitard. That was pretty cool.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if I hated it, but, you know.
All right. Well, as I said before, that moves us directly into our next match. Goldust defeats Savio Vega with the Nation of Domination by disqualification in 8 minutes and 34 seconds. Like I said, this match just kept on going from the previous segment. Out of nowhere, we had Miguel Perez Jr. joining in on commentary. He was almost impossible to understand. The language barrier was thick here. Sunny stuck around to cheer the Nation of Domination there. I guess that harkens back to her old friendship with Farooq, maybe. That's the only way I could really make sense of it, why she had any kind of attachment to this situation at all. But I did pop my ass off when the crowd started chanting Candido at her. That was good shit, pal. It was great to see Savio finally in heel colors, though. As much as he is here, they just dyed his last shirt black, left little stripies up on his shoulders. Once again, the action in the ring, just kind of there. You know, every time Miguel Perez opened his mouth, I was a little less interested in what was going on. I did like Goldust countering Savio's splash attempt by bringing his knees up, and we got another shot of Ken Shamrock, this time looking mildly confused. And not much else happened in the match. Eventually, Crush came in to draw the DQ victory. Vince McMahon compared this finish to gang warfare. And Miguel Perez, he liked none of this. He got in the ring and kicked everyone but Goldust out. And that's it. Once again, I'm just kind of left with a feeling of what the fuck. Ryan, what did you think of this?
I was expecting something better out of Savio Vega and Goldust, you know? They're two very solid ring workers, but this was a forgettable match, and I don't know if it was just because of it was involved in this episode, and we also had Prez on commentary, which was hard to follow. But speaking of commentary, they just kept on laying into this how much of a betrayal to the Puerto Rican people Savio Vega is. It really reminded me of the Tatanka stuff when he turned evil and how he betrayed the entire Native American nation or whatever.
Native Americans worldwide.
Yeah, Native Americans worldwide. That's what this reminded me of. Thankfully, though, Savio has come out with more heel ring gear now. They did switch up his stuff, and it looks a little bit more appropriate, but the match ended exactly how you would expect a nation match to end at this point. Disqualification, unfortunately, this time by Crush coming in. But I did love that Goldust was able to bitch slap Crush right in the face before the match ended. So that was a positive point in this match. But for the most part, a forgettable match from these two, which is sad to say because, as I stated at the beginning, these two are usually pretty entertaining to watch.
Well, you mentioned that Vince said this was, what did you say it was, gang warfare?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember, maybe this is what they're building up to, but remember when they used to, I think it was around this time, they had gangs like a biker gang and a Puerto Rican gang, and I think it was called DOA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember DOA.
I wonder if that's what they're building up to. I don't know. I don't know who Miguel Perez is. They didn't really tell us, did they?
Yeah, I didn't really. They were just like, oh, here he is on commentary, like we knew.
Yeah. Really strange. Yeah, really strange. And then he gets in the ring. It's like, okay, who is this? Like, this is obviously somebody they want us to know.
Because he cleared the ring, so.
Yeah. Pretty strange. This wasn't really a good match to me. I just, the highlight was the cameraman zooming in on Sunny's ass cheeks hanging out of her shorts.
And the cleavage, too.
Yeah. And why is she there? We don't know. Nobody explains that. It's just, what a mess.
It's to test out the zoom feature on that camera.
And another schmoz finish here. So, yeah, just a mess.
Yeah, well, maybe these things that aren't looking too good on our screens, maybe we can counteract that, do a little eye bleach, and do a Raw flashback to July 19th, 1993, and the one and only Tiny Tim and his ukulele. We got some clips of Jerry Lawler insulting Tiny Tim there, the late Tiny Tim, and it's good to know that they're going to keep on burying him months now after his death, any way they can. That was all somehow relevant as a segue into Jerry Lawler walking over to talk to Ken Shamrock. Jerry wanted to take credit for all of Ken Shamrock's skills, citing all the times they worked out together. Ken was very incredulous and confused, something that we will all need to get used to seeing on his face as the years go by. As he first says, "I don't know you," and then, "You're a liar," repeatedly. I popped my ass off.
I don't know you.
You're a liar. Shamrock ended this segment by shrugging and mouthing, "I don't know him." Hey, by the way, voting has opened for the next round of Slammies, in case anybody was wondering about that. That's pretty much it here. Ryan, I was popping my ass off for Ken Shamrock keeping it real. What did you think of this?
I was popping my ass off the moment I saw Tiny Tim on my screen. The only thing I was a little disappointed was they cut this segment before the King crushed his ukulele, and we got to hear Tiny Tim say, "But I like my ukulele." That was disappointing, but not disappointing to see Ken Shamrock here. His responses were, yeah, we're just going to have to get used to him not being very great on the mic, but excited to see him in the ring for sure. But I don't know you. You're a liar. So that is what I come away from in this segment.
Yeah, I thought this was terrible. I think they could have done something a little more creative here and put Ken in a better position. He's sitting right next to these frat boy douchebags.
He doesn't know them either. Extremely
obnoxious. Also, there were like no WWF shirts in this crowd. It's all ECW and NWO shirts. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if they went and flyered Philadelphia and got everybody to hop a train into New York for this. All right, that's going to take us into our next match. Taz with Bill Alfonso and Team Taz defeats Mikey Whipwreck via submission in 2 minutes and 33 seconds. This is a match I was excited to see. I always liked Mikey Whipwreck. He... You know, you love an underdog. Mikey is always an underdog in all of his matches all the time. And I've always liked Taz. And the reason that I like Taz was immediately apparent here. This was tight right off the bat. The human suplex machine was on it, and Mikey was working hard with him. 2 minutes and 33 seconds, so, I mean, not a whole lot to talk about here. Just some brief highlights. Taz hit a Northern Lights suplex. It looked great. But just when I was like really getting into this match, we got a split screen with Farooq and the Nation of Domination. Between the match in the ring and one of the split screens and the crowd noise, I really couldn't tell you what Farooq was talking about. Maybe one of you guys can touch on it for me because I missed it. Because then also out of nowhere, Sabu appeared and jumped off of the Raw sign onto Team Taz. That set up a kind of sloppy spot where Taz tried to suplex Mikey over the top rope and onto Sabu. It didn't work out well, but they kind of just flopped their way through it. Finally, Taz hit Mikey with the Tazplex and then the Taz Mission to end this, also known as the Katahajame. This segment finished up with Fonzie waving a big T flag. Joe, I really wanted to get into this one, and I started to, but then that disjointed feeling of the episode just kept creeping in. My attention kept on shifting as the little distractions kept popping up. What did you have on this match, please?
Well, first off, I want to let you guys know that my autocorrect changed his name to Mikey Shipwreck. It would not allow me to type in Whipwreck. I think Mikey got about 5 concussions during this match. Holy
least.
Shit.
At least.
Was Taz always that brutal?
Yes.
Another Taz question is, did he always come out with all of these lackeys that he had with him, like this crew?
That was just right at near the beginning of his career. Yeah.
Okay.
Then he's kind of a lone wolf type character most of his career, yeah.
Yeah. Also, his music. He used to come out to War Machine by Kiss, and then he had like his own song. Did you guys happen to notice the cheap generic music that Peacock threw in there?
Oh, yeah.
It was basically just a fake version of War Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty weird. Again, remember how I said everything just seems kind of rushed? It's like ECW just wanted to get their shit in.
Yeah.
The Sabu thing was just like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is just out of nowhere, makes no sense, you know? So again, it's just, everything just seems sort of rushed here.
Yeah, rushed is a good way to put it. Mikey Whipwreck comes out, and I was very, very close. I text you two guys of us having our first non-WWF, someone who has never stepped foot in a ring for the WWF as our jobber of the week. He was very close, but he didn't grab it solely because he is not employed by the WWF, but he deserved it here because Taz just threw him on his neck about 5 times, and the fact that Mikey has a spine left is amazing. The match, though, it was just a little too short, and the Sabu thing, Joe, like you said, just completely out of nowhere. And that was the moment he showed up, and by the end, once I saw what he was doing, I was like, so that was just solely to say, oh yeah, don't forget about Sabu. We got to show him too. I enjoyed the 2.5 minutes or whatever it was for the most part, but yeah, rushed is just not giving enough time for these ECW people to really get over, I feel.
All right. Let's move it along now to our next match. The Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, defeat the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, by double countout in 7 minutes and 44 seconds. It was great to hear the "What a Rush" entrance for the Legion of Doom. That took me back. Mosh was wearing a Pantera shirt. Mm-hmm. Once again, Thrasher's shirt was not clear to me, but I certainly noticed the Pantera. The crowd got a Nitro Sucks chant going. Lawler asked what they were saying. Vince ignored him and pointed out that there's no censorship on Raw. After a while, the crowd also started chanting Bischoff sucks. The action in the ring up to this point was serviceable, in that the Headbangers were more or less jobbing to the Legion of Doom. And things had gotten to the outside when we broke for commercial and came back to picture-in-picture of what we had missed. It was a pretty neat double-team move. If you'd like to spend $1.49 a minute, you can call 1-900-SHAMELESS to find out what brought the Legion of Doom back and how that's going to influence WrestleMania. Maybe the first time a relevant question has ever been posed on 1-900-SHAMELESS. And that's where we got to the finish. Both teams were at the outside and both teams drew double countout. That didn't stop the Legion of Doom from hitting the Doomsday device on the Headbangers after the fact, though, asserting their dominance. Ryan, with zero foreshadowing or warning, the Legion of Doom are back in the WWF. What did you think of this match?
Yeah, the only warning we had was Joe telling us on news a few weeks ago that the Legion of Doom were showing up. But even with that, I was surprised and excited when I heard, "What a rush." It was just blast back to the youth on top of the Headbangers, which is another blast back to the youth. And as you pointed out, the Pantera shirt, these guys are just completely tailored for me. Me or my brother, we didn't have this shirt, but I did have the same image that was on this shirt as a poster up in my dorm room in college. So these guys, it's like they went into my head and made a tag team for me. And serviceable is probably the best way to do it. I was afraid that the Headbangers were already veering into jobber territory, and for the most point they were. They just got their ass kicked for the most part by the Legion of Doom, but they did a good job of putting them over, and then at the end, surprisingly, we got a double countout, so they didn't want to completely bury the Headbangers yet, which I think is a good move. You know, you just introduced these guys. Obviously, the Legion of Doom is going to come out ahead as they got to hit their finisher here at the end, but they didn't completely bury the Headbangers, and I thought that was a good choice.
Yeah, I fucking popped my ass off as hard as that New York crowd when I heard that music, because I didn't expect it either. Legion of Doom they're probably my favorite tag team ever.
Yeah.
Just look at these guys. I mean, these are professional wrestlers. Like, they are just gassed up monsters, both of them.
Those spiked shoulder pads, to me, are almost as iconic as the yellow Hulk shirt.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I loved this tag team in the early 90s when they came to WWF. And I mean, I still love them now.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing them here, the match sucked. The finish was shitty, but whatever. I watched their entrance a couple times just because I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. And even Vince let it happen before he let out his stupid unbelievable. You know, he kind of gave it some breathing room before he ruined the entrance. I kind of wish that, you know, this would have been a squash against someone else. Like, I'm sure the Hardy Boys were available or someone else, you know, for the LOD to come after. But it was great to see Hawk and Animal here.
Just try to keep that in your mind, that feeling of happiness and greatness as we move forward to a Shawn Michaels video.
You skipped the good news we did get.
It snuck in there, huh?
Yeah.
What was that?
While they were talking about Shawn Michaels' knee and how we were lucky that only rehab is going to bring him back, the wild man Mark Marrow is not quite as lucky.
Yeah.
Is what Vince McMahon said.
That was in there.
He snuck it in there because who really cares, you know?
Yeah.
But Knee Watch ended right in time. Our first episode in 2023, and he's gone.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now that you mention it, I do remember that. I mean, I got a little blindsided by this next segment, which is why I kind of jumped straight to it.
Understandable.
But yes, I did not mean to bury the lead there. Knee Watch 2022 officially over. Marrow's fucking down. I repeat, Marrow is down, and it's a good thing.
Jeez.
Thank you for bringing that up because I really wish I would have got it in there. And also because it spared us a little more time talking about this.
Let's just say Mark Marrow in real life is supposedly a fantastic human being who does all sorts of charity work for like disabled children and shit. He sounds like he's a fantastic guy.
They could have at least given him some sappy music video or something, you know.
Yeah. I mean, for how long he's going to be out with that knee.
Right.
Not like Shawn Michaels, who's going to be back next week.
This Shawn Michaels video that was up next, I just about vomited as it started because it was another sappy, slow-mo video package. This time it was set yet again against a really shitty song that was so shitty I had to look up. I had to do the, hey Google, what's this song thing on my phone. And it brought it up. I thought it was going to be just some no-name shit that, you know, it would just, the little thinker would just spin on my phone. But no, this song is an official WWF song. And would anybody like to guess what the title of it is?
Gargle Shawn Michaels balls.
Fake knee injury.
Well, you know, Joe, you're a little close. The official name of this song is Tell Me a Lie.
How fitting.
Tell Me a Lie, the Shawn Michaels tribute song. It was eventually officially released on a WWF The Music album, one of the compilations they released in like the early 2000s, the Federation.
Well, that makes me want to puke.
Yeah.
He's gonna puke.
Yeah.
I can totally go on Amazon and buy this for both of you as a little Easter
please
present.
Don't.
Friendship with Bartlett has ended.
Friend Watch 2023 is over. But that shitty song, I mean, the video lasted the entire duration of the song, which was about a full 3 minutes, and it felt like a full 3 fucking hours. We cut to commercial after that, came back to Paul Heyman setting up the next match. But before we get to that, Ryan, I have to ask, what did you think of yet another sappy fucking Shawn Michaels tribute video package, this time with its own official WWF sanctioned song?
Unbelievably bad. I mean, this may be worse. No, it is worse than the Wind Beneath My Wings video montage from before. Yeah. Because at least from before, he was assaulted by an entire platoon of Marines. But this is all a lie about his knee because he didn't want to lose to Bret Hart. Just fucking disgraceful.
I agree, but I look at it more of what the fuck to the WWF. Like, why are you doing this? It's like they had no fucking clue what to do with this guy, Shawn Michaels.
He's coming right back.
I know.
I mean,
what is the purpose of this? What was the purpose of that other one? Like, this is just trash.
Masturbation material for Vince is really the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. He wants people to love this guy so much, but like, this is not the way to do it.
This is why people are booing him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really weird that he didn't get, with all of this shit going on, it's really weird he didn't get to the level of Die Rocky Die.
Well, speaking of.
Oh yes. Yes, I do have that noted here later on. But first, let's start our next match. Tommy Dreamer with Beulah McGillicuddy, goddamn, defeating Devon Dudley with Sign Guy Dudley and then Bubba Ray Dudley by pinfall in 4 minutes and 28 seconds. Beulah was always a close second in terms of hotness behind Francine for me. I loved Beulah McGillicuddy.
Well, can I just say, has anyone outkicked their coverage more in wrestling than Tommy Dreamer? I mean, how the fuck did Tommy Dreamer pull that?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a Jersey thing.
Yeah.
You know, he's kind of a big meathead, kind of. I don't know. I mean, but damn, Beulah. Tommy Dreamer got things started off pretty strongly here, but things then went outside of the ring. Tommy hit Devon with some kind of foreign object that I couldn't identify. And then Tommy grabbed a cane off of some fan there and hit Devon with it. And then the ring stairs, they started getting thrown into the mix, both literally and figuratively. Sign Guy Dudley handed a chair up to Devon. Tommy got a headshot and then sidewalk slammed Devon onto it. We got a split screen so we could see Lawler and Heyman argue, and I did love Paul Heyman calling Jerry Lawler a freaking clown. That was pretty good. We had some more action in the ring there, then another split screen with The Undertaker, and this was another one of those ones where he had to fight to deliver his promo against the crowd noise. During that split screen, Tommy Dreamer hit Devon with a DDT onto a chair, getting the pin in the 3 count. Back in the ring, Bubba Ray Dudley showed up, though. Hit Tommy Dreamer with a 3D. That stands for the Dudley Death Drop, for anybody out there wondering. But then the Sandman showed up to save Tommy Dreamer. He was there with his Budweiser and his Singapore cane. And this segment got finished up with a very forced pull-apart between Heyman and Lawler with Vince McMahon in the middle. It really looked like this whole thing was improvised. Everybody else worked it well, except for Vince, who was caught off guard and literally in between Heyman and Lawler. Joe, I don't have a ton to really talk about with this match because this just continued the trend of style clashes for me. What did you think of this?
Commentary is pretty horrible tonight as far as calling matches, but Vince to me has been fantastic all night because of how confused he sounds. I love that. To me, this was the best part of the show involving ECW, in my opinion.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I'm talking more about the actual match itself and then the Sandman getting involved. That pull apart at the end was pretty weak, but everything as far as this match, that was probably the best part of the show tonight involving ECW.
You know, I'd completely agree with you. I thought this did the best job of showing ECF&W. You know, This was mayhem in the ring. And this is what people have come to expect out of ECW, you know, and I think it did the best job of delivering what people wanted to see from ECW. It was very short and the ending was a little bit fucky. We miss it. We're at split screen while the ending happens, unfortunately. But I thought in all, this was the best ECW match and all around thing we saw tonight.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I mean, I personally preferred the Taz match, but given just the overall state of things in this episode, you guys do make valid points there. I do have a rhetorical question for anybody out there that wants to rhetorically answer this. Did you know that the WWF coming to Germany was the biggest thing to happen there since tearing down the Berlin Wall?
Oh, man.
Talk about tasteless.
If I worked for Peacock, I would have edited that out.
No censorship. The WWF does not censor.
I would have said, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm editing this out.
In the timeline of German history, there's World War II, there's the Berlin Wall, and then there's March 3rd, 1997, the WWF.
Well, the European Championship.
Bigger than the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
The champion of all Europe. Next week, Raw will be there from Berlin, and a new European champion will be crowned. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. We still have no information at all about who is in the tournament, who's in maybe a main event, what the progress has been.
I haven't heard anything. I mean, maybe on Superstars, but nothing on Raw.
Yeah, not a damn clue.
This video led to a highlight reel narrated by Jim Ross and Jim Cornette of the championship match and what led up to it last week on Raw. That went on for quite a while. They replayed the entire finish of the match. And that was followed by a Superstars exclusive of Bret Hart backstage, yelling and trying to find Steve Austin. He ran into the Godwinns and Goldust back there. Everybody left him alone. Nobody was picking any fights. The cameras followed Bret into the locker room where he continued to trash the place in frustration. But we can't stop there. Let's go to Todd Pettingzoo. He's live and in person. My God, at least he got rid of that damn goatee. Pettingzoo is there interviewing Ken Shamrock, trying to get it right this time. Ken Shamrock picks The Undertaker to win the title at WrestleMania. And then, despite being called a no-holds-barred match just minutes ago by Vince McMahon, Pettingzoo refers to the upcoming Bret Hart versus Steve Austin match as a submission match. And when trying to get Shamrock's opinion, Shamrock refuses to comment on who might come out on top there. Heaping tragedy upon tragedy, Pettingzoo is interrupted by PG-13, and that's where this segment ends. Joe, what did you think about the fact that we've had zero build-up to our newest WWF title, the European Championship? Do you have any other thoughts on this segment besides that?
I mean, zero buildup is that's the theme of tonight, really, because we're 4 weeks away from WrestleMania, and we've got the fucking Blue Meanie out there dancing and Sabu jumping off of the Raw sign. I mean, yeah, not much buildup for WrestleMania, period. I did think that this piece from Ken Shamrock was a little bit better this time around, and they got some more security around him this time, which was nice to see.
Yeah, the build-up for the European title is non-existent, which is, that's sad. The Shamrock thing was definitely better than the earlier King segment. We learn a little bit more. His dad's here. He's super happy and proud of Ken. But yeah, I mean, just it was a little bit better. We got to hear from Shamrock a little more. The only thing worse is that we had to endure Todd Pettingzoo.
Thankfully, that doesn't happen very often here. We've kind of gotten past him for the most part, it seems like, and I'm happy with that. I'm at peace with that. Well, gentlemen, let's move on to our final match of the night. The Undertaker defeats Farooq with the Nation of Domination via disqualification in 11 minutes and 28 seconds. Farooq takes a moment to jaw at Ken Shamrock and actually challenges Ken Shamrock to jump in the ring with him. That was some good shit. Ken Shamrock then cuts a fucking promo on Farooq, almost but not quite accepting the challenge, and that didn't sound half bad either, all things considered. When the match finally started, Farooq became a chicken shit heel, and that does not work for me, brother. That's not a reflection of The Undertaker in the least bit. It's just simply unbelievable to me that a person with Farouk's presence would be afraid of anything at all, period. I've mentioned that a couple times in the past whenever Farooq was doing this chicken shit thing. It's not believable. Up through the first commercial break, nothing of major note had happened, and the match was just kind of hanging out there for me. After we came back, Farooq started to take the upper hand, and I started getting into things a little more. That is, until we got another split screen showing what happened during the commercial. It just wasn't very interesting and not really worth the split screen they put it up on. At about the time Farooq was trying to get Undertaker's legs around the ring post, I saw a Die Rocky sign in the crowd. That got me pretty excited. And right after that, the crowd started a "We Are the Nation of Masturbation" chant. Popped my ass off. And once again, I just found myself sitting through a good portion of the match. Once again, serviceable, not complaining, but not tickling my taint in the least. The Undertaker no-sold the shit out of a pile driver. That was almost embarrassing to Farooq. And that's what drew Savio Vega in to get the disqualification. That also drew in the Legion of Doom, who, for some reason, wanted to come out against the Nation of Domination. That just kind of confused me. And that is where we faded to black. Ryan, I hate to say it, but this match was kind of on par with the rest of the episode for me. At points, it was kind of boring when I wasn't being distracted by a ton of shit going on around it. What did you think of this?
Yeah, I'm an asshole for The Undertaker, but I can't really put this over that much. It was just kind of there. It wasn't bad. No one here was botching anything. There wasn't any bad promos. It was just kind of there. They wasted time a little bit. The Undertaker got his spots in, which is what you expect. And I guess maybe that's all the crowd really wanted to see was The Undertaker set up a couple times, and win the match. But a surprisingly forgettable match between two really good superstars. I would have really hoped for something a little bit more memorable out of these two guys. But the Legion of Doom coming in to save The Undertaker? Why? That doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. And then it just goes completely schmoz to end it out. So, yeah, it was serviceable. I'm not going to say this was a bad match. It had big star power. It just was nothing that great and kind of predictable ending with the Nation at this point.
Yeah, to me, this really stunk for a few reasons. I basically disliked everything after the Farooq and Ken Shamrock confrontation. I thought that was pretty good. But after that, I think that Bartlett, like you mentioned, Farooq in the chicken shit heel type of stuff doesn't work for me either, brother. The Undertaker just looked out of place here in this type of setting. It's nice to allow these fans to see The Undertaker, but these fans are a different, as JR would say, a different breed of cat. And I don't really know if you really had to have The Undertaker on this show, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it looked like it was just a kind of a weak attempt at getting LOD into a feud with the Nation, I guess. So maybe that's what we're going to see. I don't know. I don't know any other reason to have them come out, to be honest.
Yeah, confusing is probably the best way to put it. I don't know. Maybe someday they'll explain it. I don't know. But as I said, that's where we faded to black. So let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Joe, please, why don't you go first?
Oh boy, this is tough. Just such a strange episode of Raw that, not normal what we're used to seeing. Mm-hmm. I didn't dislike the show. I think anyone who was a fan of ECW and WWF should go back and watch this. I guess for my highlight, I'll go with the Tommy Dreamer and Devon Dudley match, just because, like I said, I think this was the best use of ECW talent, in my opinion, on this show. And lowlight was, for me, I'm going to go with that final match, that Farooq versus Undertaker match. I thought it was just terrible with two big names.
So for my highlight, I'm going to be right there with you. I thought the Devon Dudley, Tommy Dreamer, although not a fantastic match, I thought it did the best job of giving the fans what they wanted to see from ECW, which is absolute pandemonium in the ring. Low light, I had to go with the stupid fucking Shawn Michaels blowjob video.
The blowjob video.
When was that leaked? Where can I find it?
If you listen close enough during this video, you could hear Vince gargling.
I'm gonna be differing with both of you guys here, but only in the actual highlight and lowlight. This was also extremely hard for me to come up with my highlight and lowlight because I didn't feel that this promotional crossover episode put either party in the best light. I don't feel that the WWF did a good enough job of translating ECW out to the masses. I also feel like ECW didn't do themselves any favors, especially, things like the Taz match. Like you guys said, just getting their shit in, they could have been a little more subtle about it. But then again, the WWF only gave them on average 3 minutes per match. So, like I said, neither party looked good in my opinion here. But for my highlight, I had to go with the return of the Legion of Doom. What a nice surprise. Gives me hope that the tag team division might get some more life breathed into it between that and, the Headbangers. And hopefully the tag team division might be waking up a little bit. My low light, I can't think of a better way to put it than just the feel of the episode. Call it disjointed, schizophrenic, non-linear, disorganized, whatever you want. The whole thing just kind of felt like a mess to me, and I don't know. It made me glad that we did this, but it also made me glad that we were done with this. So, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around February 24th, 1997 for us?
Well, gentlemen, as we know, we don't know, but Dave Meltzer is reporting that Ken Shamrock is officially signed with the WWF.
Excellent.
Reported at a 3-year guaranteed low 7-figure contract. Also, the belief is that Shamrock will debut in a non-wrestling role, most likely in a guest referee spot. Dave Meltzer is also reporting some sad news here. Despite the use of ECW, Ken Shamrock, the return of the Legion of Doom, and the return to the Manhattan Center, Nitro still pulled a 2.97 rating, which defeated a 2.43 rating for the WWF on this show. However, some good news for USA Network. La Femme Nikita defeated Robin Hood.
Oh, thank God.
In the ratings.
Yeah,
so
that's all that matters.
Dave Meltzer had some comments on this episode of Raw, saying that the Manhattan Center reacted well to ECW, but died for the WWF matches, making the show almost come off like someone playing a practical joke on the WWF. He also said the Road Warrior return was poorly designed. He said the Savio Vega versus Goldust match was dull. And he said the Undertaker and Farooq match was a -star match.
Wow.
He also says there is no question the appearance was a positive for ECW. And he also had some positive comments about Jerry Lawler, saying Jerry Lawler was nothing short of phenomenal in his knocks of the ECW product as a heel, putting it over.
Yeah, I agree with most of what Dave's saying here.
Yeah, same here.
Well, you're going to love what Dave has to say here, is that Mark Marrow tore his ACL and needs reconstructive surgery. Mark will be out for a minimum of 6 months. Some other knee problems here. Steve Austin had a partial tear in his PCL.
Jeez.
And he will be likely out of ring action until WrestleMania. Both Marrow and Austin went to the doctor after that February 17th Raw show in Nashville. So I told you guys that Mark Marrow was limping and you didn't want to believe me. But the doctors have confirmed it.
Did they both go to Dr. James Andrews? And did Dr. James Andrews say, thankfully, this is a real injury?
I can confirm that Mark Marrow did go to Dr. James Andrews. I'm not sure about Austin.
And 2 weeks of rehab isn't going to do him in.
Yeah. We've talked about the Jerry Lawler and Paul Heyman working so well together. Well, apparently there's real heat between those two guys, which is probably the reason why it is acted out so well on TV. Lawler apparently did not like the Neighborhood Watch program comment that Heyman made last week. And I guess there was an incident where Jerry Lawler punched Paul Heyman in the face. I don't know if that was in the 80s or early 90s at some point, but
that's understandable.
I guess there's been some heat there.
That's pretty funny.
Ever since that happened. So yeah, that's why it's so enjoyable, kind of like the real heat between Sean and Brett.
Yeah.
And that is all.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on March 3rd, 1997, with matches featuring Bret Hart, The Sultan, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.